After crashing $35,000 and 32% over 77 days to the $74,000 low, Bitcoin finally finds itself in its first significant breakout to the upside. The bulls potentially have a little bit of control at this stage in the market. But of course, Trump keeps his mouth open. He keeps rattling off shit to the market. This time it is around Jerome Powell. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of opinions on this matter. So we want to leave the opinions to the side today and just focus on what the charts are saying. We want to stick to the facts, stick to the charts, and have a look at what the data is telling us. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. It's your home of macro cycle analysis. I'm going to cover the stock markets, crypto, Bitcoin, and the real estate cycle. And of course, giving a strong focus here on BTC as we're now seeing the first significant breakout of this downtrend. So I think it's a good place to start, being that this is the first significant breakout, now up roughly 17.5% at an extreme here of 19%, getting close to the previous resistance levels of about 88 to 89,000. And although this can happen, here is the first disclaimer. Well, you know it, it's the markets. They can basically go up and down. No shit, right? But the point here is that even though we potentially see a further upside breakout with a nice good close here on the daily, it doesn't mean that the whole game is over if you see the market reverse. So I just want to take our attention back to the previous periods where we had a significant low form. This case was August of 2024. The markets rallied out of that low. And then on this decline here and the decline in October, the first being in September and the second being in October, these two declines had extreme fear wrapped around them. You had obviously extreme fear at the low, big volume coming in, but when this decline happened after you got a first day breakout here, like a nice breakout above those tops, this decline came at the expense of a lot of the emotions that had built up prior to this. So of course you get this declining move, a little bit of volume steps in, but the defining signal here is the extreme emotion, yet there was a higher low. Then another rally followed, and this rally is the big one. This is the big one that we are now watching for Bitcoin to overcome in this particular rally. Now I'm going to get to what's going on in the macro, the economic space in just a moment. So stay tuned for that, because that, of course, is also playing with what's going on in the market right now, especially over what I think is going to happen over the next few months with a lot of the testing going on, the testing to the upside and testing to the downside. So we really want to find out as best as we can, of course, whether this is going to be a sustained rally, something significant, or if it's going to be like every other rally before. And the prior moves here to the upside, basically looking at how the market evolved from this point, these rallies were all thought to be like the previous rallies that all failed. So these corrections came off the back of these rallies, and everyone thought that just because all these rallies before had failed, it was going to happen again, and it was just a matter of time until the price fell below $40,000 and basically the bull market was over and the bear market was on. Kind of similar to at least what I'm hearing now, and you guys might be hearing the same sort of thing too. You're just hearing a lot about how the bull market is over. Now, there's no signs to say it's over. It could definitely be over. You know, there's just what happens here. No one in the world knows what happens on the black side of the chart. We're just trying to play the probabilities here. And the probabilities at this time in August, September, and October suggested that this top here was about to give us further upside. Just based on the probabilities, there was a higher degree of chance that we were going to get higher prices. Therefore, on any of these corrections was a good time to be getting in. And an even safer time, which makes you pay the premium, is when you see a breakout of these tops. So the price obviously has to come up, and then you get a breakout of those highs. You even get, in this case, late October and early November, just before the election day, you also had a retest of those tops as well. So that's a safer time because you're seeing the trend evolve and the trend is continuing to the upside. Of course, you pay a slight premium here from the exact low to the exact breakout point. But at the end of the day, the game is not about trying to capture the exact low point or the exact high point of the market. The game, if we've all forgotten it by now, is literally to take chunks of profits out of the middle. Wherever that chunk is, entirely up to you. But if you're taking profits out, you're doing better than over 90% of the market. And if you want to know more about this for your trading and investing leading into this peak of the cycle, check out TIA Premium. There's a link in the video description. You can check out the trading results all for free as well. Have a look at and a read of what our traders or investors are doing over in TIA Premium with the education that they are learning to then go and apply on crazy altcoins like Fartcoin, or keep it relatively safe with ETH, Bitcoin, or the stock markets as well. The stuff that we teach, the stuff that I go through with you guys in the videos can be applied to all markets, and you can use for a lifetime on any time frame. So it could even be your long-term portfolios that you might look at the charts once a week, once a month, just to get a grasp of what your portfolio is doing and how you can better implement some strategies. Speaking of strategies, this is the overbalance in time and price that I'm following and that we're following here on the channel, just like we did in 2024 and also like we did in 2023 when we saw the market rally out of these lows of $16,000, $15,000. There were signals here to suggest that the bulls are getting in control, even if there are corrections, just like we saw with the banking crisis. And then obviously the market took off from there and the rest is history. So what is the overbalance of time and price? We have got to the time, so we're at roughly, to the day now, enough time has overbalanced, but the price has not overbalanced yet for BTC. The price needs to get above $92,000. Now that brings a whole host of other issues once it gets to that price. But the idea here is that you're going to see the buyers step in to a longer time frame than they have done in any of the rallies throughout 2025, and longer, a greater degree of price. And this is not a percentage, this is actual price. And when you see this happen, it's a subtle signal to suggest that the bulls are in control, even if there are corrections. We got the corrections in October, got the corrections in September, and this is where the overbalance in price and time occurred. Roughly around the 26th, 27th of September, got the correction, great times to be getting in, lots of signals here, and we posted about that with our members in TIA Premium about this particular low here, giving us that extra confidence that we need in the markets. So that time is now. This week of April, next week of April, fine. What you don't want to see, what would invalidate this, is a break below $74,400. That would reset the overbalance in time and price, and then you got to start the count again, providing that the market hasn't broken its macro structure. So that leads us to the macro now. Now the macro is at $62,000. So basically the 50% level. This is from the all-time high to the current cycle low. There it is. And that comes in at $62,400. Now, of course, if we start to see a breakdown of the diagonals, if we start to see a breakdown of the support, the previous highs about around $72,000 to $74,000, that is also going to be pretty damn weak. It's going to be a rough ride to get back to any of the previous support levels and then also break out of the resistance. And currently, this stronghold resistance is at $89,000. So that's a look at basically the same macro lines because the overall move hasn't changed. We haven't seen a new all-time high, which would adjust the 50% level. And of course, the cycle is still on. We're still in a bull market for BTC. Now, we have also seen a breakdown with the USDT dominance. So US dollar tether dominance here. And this has been another day of a closing underneath the diagonal. So if you've been following this with me on the channel, going all the way back to the breakdown here in November, or somewhere around October and then late November, we were watching this pattern form because it was very similar to what happened in 2021, where a low on the USDT dominance was forming, which then led to a breakout to the upside. So when this thing breaks out to the upside, that's basically bad news for the bulls in crypto and Bitcoin. So any of the bulls looking to make money to the upside. In this case, all the money flows back into the USDT dominance. Now, we're on the verge of another overbalance in time and price. This time, however, to the downside for the USDT dominance. So you want to see this thing break down, because that would mean more of the money would be flowing out of USDT and then back into some of the beloved cryptos, like obviously Bitcoin, and then probably some of the other stronger alts. And we can cover that later, but at the moment, things are still looking a little bit rough there for altcoins. So this is the first big thing, at least over the last week, because nothing else has happened over this last Easter period, that we've seen for the USDT dominance and, of course, crypto and Bitcoin. Now, just taking a look at the fear and greed index, we're also seeing the fear and greed climb out of the extreme fear. We've had another fear session. We're now getting close to neutral, which hasn't happened for a long time. If in fact it's just happened today, roughly 47.48. And so the time frame that I've been watching and sharing with you on the channel for months is about 5 months from the extreme of the sentiment, not the price, but of the sentiment, down to the lows and potentially the higher lows in the market. You can see in the previous cycles, or the previous moves to the downside, but about 5 months to reset the market sentiment. And maybe you guys were here in January. Generally at this time, people leave the market and they just think it's impossible. What the hell are you talking about that this sentiment has to reset? What could possibly go wrong? The crypto president just got in, and that literally called the top. That was at the top. And then you're watching the sentiment just die out. Lower lows, lower highs. Something's not right here. Everyone's calling for new all-time highs, and the game is on, and this is just the beginning, when literally it was just the end. It was literally the end of the move at the peak. Now, of course, it's so much easier in hindsight, but at least at those times, this now is something actionable that you can use with your plans. Is maybe you would look to take even just something off the table, or start to reduce exposure to the market in higher risk assets. Now, this is where a lot of people come undone, especially in cryptocurrencies, because they don't consider this garbage, meme coins and different sectors and layer twos and anything, just literally the other 2 to 10 million other altcoins out there. They don't consider them high risk, but it happens over and over and over again for years that they are all higher risk. So if you're starting to see at least some of these signs, might be a little bit of a signal to take something off the table should we see it again. If we get this, third opportunity at some higher prices. Now that's going to take time to evolve, so we'll watch what happens on the charts moving forward into the game. Talking more about the breakdowns, especially with cryptocurrencies, ETH BTC has continued to break down. It's got a new fresh low, not an all-time low yet, but a new fresh low coming in underneath 0.018. So you can see the breakdown here at 0.0185. So basically 1.8% value of BTC. And it's just dropped below 1.8% value of BTC for the first time since December 2019. So over 5 years now. Now it's broken down below the COVID lows as well. And I suspect that the trend is just going to continue falling at this rate until it gets to some sort of next support level to test. And that is back down at these lows, 0.017. And then again, even further, 0.016. If those lows continue to break, well, then you just got to keep looking back. 0.012, so 1.2%. And then potentially even under 1%. Like potentially a long way to go here. This is for ETH. But again, we're just looking at what's going on in this cycle so far. We're seeing some strength in BTC, but we're not seeing that strength come back for crypto and altcoins. Now that could be partly due to what's going on in the broader economy. Basically, risk off is the game here. We've seen gold go to new all-time highs. The stock markets are essentially still selling off with any time that Trump talks about anything. He talks about tariffs coming on, tariffs going off. The tariffs coming off or being paused was on the 9th of April. Remember when he did that tweet out that said, now's a great time to buy? All these insider mates probably got in. And then essentially since that day, we're coming up to about 2 weeks from there now, all those gains have been given back since that tweet. So again, it's almost a buy the rumor, sell the news, or basically buy dead on the time the news comes out, which is selling the news because all of his mates probably already knew before it. So buy the rumor if we knew about the rumor. That was around that, probably 3 hours. We all had the call, right? 3 hours. He tweeted, then 3 hours later, puts out another tweet saying that the tariffs are going to be paused for 90 days. Pump. Okay, so we all got it that time. I stand corrected. But since then, it's sold off for the last 2 weeks. This is the S&P 500 giving back all those gains. You've got the NASDAQ also giving back all of these gains. You've got the Dow Jones giving back all of the gains. This essentially looks like we're watching this bar right here and then this price action. And you can see it's come all the way back to roughly that level, which is about the time that Trump puts out his first tweet, giving everyone a chance to buy in before he talks about the tariffs getting paused for 90 days. So that aside, and just in the last 24 hours with this day here, Trump calling Jerome Powell a loser, just sort of nonsense going on in the US at the moment, trying to break the Fed down and get interest rates to drop. What the market is saying, what the market is actually doing is the interest rates are going up here. So the 10-year yield. Now you might think that's a good thing. You get more for your money here if you're buying the bonds. But the problem is less and less countries, businesses, whoever are buying the bonds. So you're seeing the bonds continue to go down. Here is the 21st of April, literally the last 24 hours, bonds down again. And the yields are up. So it could mean something like the yields, well, the interest rates need to go up in order to entice that money to come back into the US. And you're also seeing it here with the US dollar continuing to break down. Now, this was part of our theory looking at the 18-year cycle. So how is all this going to tie back into Bitcoin? I'll get to that in just a moment. But if you do want to add this into your plans and prepare for the peak of the cycle for your real estate portfolios, maybe your stock portfolios, check out TIA Premium. Link is in the video description. And if you do want to get a taster for what's going on in the Discord, there is a link in the video description as well for the free report also coming out today. Lots of information there to help you stay on the right side of the game at this point. Winner's curse phase leading into this peak sometime where we're looking at within the sort of next 12 to 24 months. And we're going to get more signals along the way. It seems like we're already getting some of those signals now with the US dollar breaking down, which generally in the last 3 or so cycles has happened in the second half. The second half of the real estate cycle, we had the low around 2020. We burst out of that low and we're coming into this final peak now with the US dollar coming down, breaking all of those previous support levels at 199, now trading at 98. With a low there touching around 97.5. So a 3-year low here for the US dollar. Now, if we look back in history over these periods of the second half of the real estate cycle, you can see it led into this peak, and it was just an absolute disaster show for the US dollar coming down. Now, this is generally part of the puzzle that happens at the end of the 18-year cycle. As I showed here, that led into the low. There's 2008, and the low for the cycle is around 2011, 2012. This is for the real estate and economic cycle. Of course, the stock market bottomed slightly earlier, around 2009. Here is the previous cycle to that. We're going to use another chart here that has more data. And you can see in the 80s leading into that low, late 70s, there it is. Bam, into the 1975 consolidation. And then you had the market run up into that first half of the real estate cycle. So while all that is going on, and in terms of just the short term here now, you've got the US dollar dropping on the daily and BTC finding some ground here on the daily chart. So you can see it went down and the US or the Bitcoin price went up as well. On top of that, you've also got gold going up. So there is some sort of sign here that maybe the Bitcoin price is either one, working inverse to the US dollar, so US dollar breaking down and the price of Bitcoin's going up just to keep a relative cost basis to the breakdown of the US dollar. And two, maybe to a slight degree, it could be seen as a risk on asset, basically a bit of a safe haven away from anything to do with the US dollar just because of where it is sitting. I tread very cautiously here saying that because I don't want to start to alarm people to say that this is a currency that is going to be a risk on, something like gold, but I am being aware of the price action here. It hasn't had the same sort of run that gold has had, basically breaking out and doing the low to the high here, 16% after the market put in 3 significant days, huge volume, and then burst to the upside. So it's not playing the same sort of game as gold is right now, but there is some subtle signs of strength at this stage because it's not falling like the stock markets have been falling here. Now, of course, unfortunately, all of this could change in a matter of days. But for now, let's keep following how this action is playing out and what we could potentially continue to see should Bitcoin break out at 89K and potentially put in this overbalance in time and price after this first breakout of the downtrend. So we can see the downtrend that we've been covering for this entire video, the top to the next top. Nice solid breakout thus far. Now I've got more on gold and the stock market because although gold has run up to a new fresh all-time high even today as I film this video at $3,400, some of the data here suggests that we could be seeing a bit of a slowdown, but that's not a standalone system to basically short gold at this price. I mean, if you tried to short gold on each of these days, you'd be getting absolutely wrecked. So I don't talk about this in terms of it's time to short gold. It's just that some of these things look like they're getting a little bit overbalanced, and you're seeing the S&P plunge, as it says here. The S&P has plunged when priced in gold, basically a breakdown between the equities and gold. And typically when we see this happen, there is roughly about a 2-week to a month period, as the data shows here, that you might continue to see gold outperform until it doesn't. And then it can go on a 3, 6, 12-month period that it doesn't perform. And basically the stock market picks up again. And that is part of basically the cycle that I'm looking at here. We continue to see higher prices later in the year for stocks. Things that need to calm down, especially Trump and his on again, off again tariff situation. And our cycle basically is showing that we've got a lot of uncertainty over Q2 and then into Q3 before we see a significant low and then a turning of the market. So lots to get through before then. There's a possibility of a June low and then a higher low in August or a lower low in August. We've got to continue to watch and wait and see what these cycles have continued to uncover over these coming months. So with that in mind, and where Bitcoin currently sits in a relatively stronger position than a lot of the other alts, we're watching how there's a lot of risk on going on at the moment. We've also seen the stock markets pull back with more of Trump's talks and things that he's saying, but still have not broken down key levels. There still seems to be a lot of uncertainty. However, none of the key macro areas have broken down yet. So it could be a bit of a basing pattern, but just will take a lot longer than what we have seen in the past. And I think what many people have been hoping for with this particular bounce that was 2 weeks ago. See, the previous moves out were relatively strong, and then you had another higher low, and then another bounce out was relatively strong. Whereas in this case, 1 day bounce out, and then spending 1 to 2 weeks coming all the way back past those gains. So the tables have basically flipped here. You're not seeing that same sort of strength that we saw in the previous buy the dip opportunities. And I think it's going to take a little bit longer to grind out here for the stock markets. So some major price action and patterns at play here for Bitcoin. Check out the free crypto and economic report coming out today. Link is in the top of the video description. That'll also get you access to the free Discord where you can check out the trading results from our traders and how they use the information from TIA Premium. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you back here for the next video. Until then, take care. Peace out.